introduce you. This is my friend Olivia Scharfman. So Olivia she and I are on the board of SEDs together, the Students for Exploration and Development of Space, which is the largest student-run space science organization, space and science and research organization in the US.
You're stealing my speech, Mike.
Oh, are you going to say these exact same things? Okay, so without further ado, Olivia Scharfman, thank you.
Hi everyone, as Mike just said, we know each other from SEDS, where I'm vice chair of the board of directors. How many of you guys know what SEDS is, actually? Okay, so there you go. We've got about half the room, so for those of you that don't, I will explain it later, so no fear. My goal here mostly is to convince you guys that interstellar space is a reality, it's a reality now, and try to convince you guys of the importance of the next generation's involvement with interstellar space, and hopefully get you guys up to date on what we're actually doing. So without further ado, I thought a lot about what would be a great way to get you guys in the mood for a presentation like this, and hopefully my friend over there will do the link click, because I don't think I can do it from here. There we go. This is a video from one of the SEDS chapters at UC San Diego. Is there sound? Okay, awesome. I see like 5 times as many smiles now. There we go. Can we get back to... Okay, so the time is now. There's been obviously a surge in private industry, a surge in private science research, and of course a surge in public research, and a lot more media and a higher diversity of public interests. So surge in private industry. Ever since the Ansari X Prize, all of a sudden private space became a reality. We have companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic. There's clearly a visible boom going on. Over there you can see, I think someone actually included a GIF of this in their talk yesterday, but that is a great GIF showing the growth of the number of satellites surrounding the Earth. Which really shows the kind of exponential growth that we're witnessing here. In terms of the surge in private science research, what you guys are probably most interested in is breakthrough Starship. How many of you guys know what that is? All right, so the idea of actually building spacecraft to go interstellar, they're working on small laser-propelled ships, and the idea actually has a lot of merit to it. So basically, this is a reality, and it's a reality now. This isn't something where we're talking about 2081 anymore. This isn't something where we're talking about several hundred years in the future. The technology for this is being developed now. Not just lunar technology, but interstellar technology. To go along with this and to help propel this forward is all of the surge in media coverage that we're receiving lately. You know, you pick up your phone every morning, and I swear there's another SpaceX launch every single day. There's all these movies coming out like Interstellar, The Martian, Hidden Figures, everything in the last couple of years getting the public super interested in space again. And of course, this has the biggest effect on young people, which is what I'm mostly here to talk to you guys about today. So who are the people who are going to be actually building these things? It's worth noting that the average astronaut, I think, is about 34 years old, which means the people who will be going into space at around the same time The Martian is supposed to take place were born in 1996. They're in college right now. So the people who will actually be going into space within the next couple of years are going to be college students and high school students or younger. So these are the people who are really looking at to lead, you know, this next generation of interstellar space exploration and interplanetary space exploration. So now I'm going to talk about SEDs and who these students are. I did a poll before I came here of, you know, how interested students were in an interstellar future and how much they believed in it. And 97 out of the 100 students that I asked said that they believed that it was coming and that it was soon and that it was important. The other three, I'm assuming, probably just didn't think it was a realistic timeline for it to be in our lifetime. But every single student I asked was interested in it and thought it was important. And I think that that's something that people lose sight of, is how much people actually care about this and how much, especially young people, are super passionate about it. So here's the spiel that Mike stole. I'm here mostly to talk to you guys about SEDs, which is the organization that we both run. It is the largest student-run space advocacy organization in the world. We have over 70 independent chapters. It might be over 80 now. This is just the latest information that I was able to grab. It's not just in the US, it's international too. We have branches in all those listed countries. Some of the interesting ones including Israel, Nepal, the Philippines, and the UK. We talk a lot actually to the branches in other countries, so it's this huge global community of students who all care about the same things you do and will be sitting in a room like this in a couple years' time. I'm from Yale, so I want to talk a little bit about what Yale SEDS chapter does and why I think it's so amazing. We're called Yale Aerospace, and the great thing about it is that it's the largest engineering organization on campus. But Yale doesn't have an aerospace engineering organization. So it's all filled with Yale doesn't have an aerospace engineering major. So it's all electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, astrophysicists, even some English majors. But you know, the essence here is that even if they're not allowed to pursue it as a major, there's still such a growth of interest in it that it's the largest club on campus. Yeah, so the most important fact that I skipped over, I think, is the membership of SEDS USA, which also goes along with what I was saying about Yale Aerospace, which is that 20% of the students are outside of STEM. I think that, you know, if I had asked you guys to picture who you would think might be interested in space, you guys would have all pictured STEM students. But actually, about a fifth of us are not in science, engineering, or math. I'm in astrophysics, but a fifth of us aren't, fifth of SEDS members, which means you have, you know, English majors and economics majors, building model rockets, people who are interested in policy. And a lot of the talk for the last couple of days has been, you know, space is for everybody. And I think the key here is to remember that space isn't just for everybody, but space needs everybody. We need people to study space law. We need people who are going to be advertising. We need people in the media. And these students are important, and they exist, and they care about space, which is something that the public isn't always so aware of. So I wanted to bring that to your guys' attention. Another great organization of students that I wanted to give a quick plug for is the Space Generation Advisory Council, which is all about space policy. They have thousands of members from 90 countries, and all they do is space policy. They talk to the UN, and they're all students. So, you know, it's important to note that the other side is there. Space needs everyone, and those students are there, and they're about to graduate, and they're about to go into the workforce and help people from every sector of the industry. In terms of high school students and younger, which of course is the future generation, you have organizations like First Robotics and Girls Who Code, who really encourage the younger kids to get, you know, into these sorts of ideas. And they encourage people who aren't just, you know, interested in robotics or interested in programming. They get people who are interested in and from a wide range of backgrounds as kids, so that even if you are an English major, you still have the ability to program if you want to. And I think they're really influential organizations for young kids. And the great thing is that everyone who I've talked to tends to be pretty interested in space from those specific organizations. Here is YUAA's chapter. I'm over there giving the little Charlie's Angel sign. Okay, so what do we do? So what you saw earlier was a launch from SEDs UCSD, which is one of the most technically advanced SEDs chapters. And I kind of showed that to you guys so you guys know that it's not just kids building small model rockets anymore. It's kids building, you know, 20 feet tall rockets, rockets that go to 10,000 feet. And more interestingly is their new project, which is a CubeSat satellite. That's the first CubeSat with a chemical propulsion system, and it's actually set to go to the moon if it wins this NASA competition, which I am 100% certain that it will. So these are students who will be building the first satellite propelled by a 3D engine to orbit the moon. They're doing really serious stuff, and I think sometimes, especially, you know, people who have already graduated, who have been out of school for a couple years, forget how much students are capable of, and then don't necessarily make use of all the great things that students are able to do. So I wanted to share that with you guys. You can see over there the trajectory that, that the satellite would be set to take. Yale also had an interesting sort of not completely conventional science project last year. Of course, we do high altitude air balloons and other stuff, but our rocket last year was a bio-rocket. We went up and collected bacterial samples from the atmosphere and then sequenced their genomes back at the lab, because we actually have a lot of biology majors. So that's, well, I thought that that was incredibly interesting. But more importantly, where is SEDS going? So that's what we do now, but where we're going, and as I, you know, continue to be in a leadership position with SEDS and work with Mike back there, who's enraptured, we're hoping to be increasing grants and scholarships to students, and we're hoping to increase high school outreach, and we're hoping to increase the number of career programs that we run. And the point of all three of these and the direction that they both sort of go to is towards increasing opportunities for students, right? Because especially with, you know, all the new media coverage, love of space and interest in and passion for space is at an all-time high. But a lot of those kids don't have access to the stuff that would allow them to participate. So we're hoping that by giving out grants and scholarships to kids, we can allow them to attend the colleges that they want, do the projects that they want. It's incredible to see how many kids are unable to get funding for really exciting projects. In terms of increasing high school outreach, a lot of kids who are wild about space but think that because they want to study law, it's not applicable to them, which is ridiculous, and it's our job to go and change that. And introducing more career programs. A lot of students are at colleges where maybe they're not colleges like Yale, where companies will go to recruit to, but they're all just as capable. They all have, you know, ABET accredited engineering degrees, or they're interested in law, or what have you. And we're hoping to connect them more directly with the industry. So basically, SEDS in the future is going to be more focused on creating opportunities for all the students who are really interested in space and want to do things that are space related, but don't have the access. In case you're falling asleep, here's another little clip. I don't know if I can have someone press play. We can also skip it. It's just a fun one of Yale's launches. Yes, I believe so. I built that. Okay, so here is the state of collaboration between you guys and students, essentially. SEDs USA runs an annual conference every year called Space Vision, which I really encourage you guys all to come to, especially if you run your own company or would be maybe interested in speaking. It's basically this huge conference where hundreds of students get together in one place. This year it's at the University of Central Florida in September, I believe. And essentially it's an opportunity for all these kids from different parts of the US to come meet each other and talk about what they're passionate about and hear from industry experts, people maybe from companies like, Icarus, Interstellar. And they kind of get to see then the reality, the next step of, what's currently going on in the modern space age. There's the Brooke Owens Fellowship. How many of you guys know what the Brooke Owens Fellowship is? Oh my gosh, Mike, at least you should be raising your hand.
I know, I was just having to point out that that's me right there.
I think I'm somewhere in there too, but I haven't been able to find myself yet. Yeah, so the Brooke Owens Fellowship was a fellowship that was put out this year for young women in aerospace that basically had them apply. And the interesting part of it was there was a creative portion to the application. And so, it encouraged that, non-STEM section of what matters with regards to space exploration. And the women who won, two of whom were SEDs board members, were then given jobs at major aerospace companies. It was sponsored by people like, I think, Boeing and Aerojet Rocketdyne. And then there are the Icarus Interstellar chapters, which I don't know a lot about, and I didn't know a lot about until coming to this conference, but there are student chapters for Icarus Interstellar, and we're hoping, SEDs as an organization to work with Icarus Interstellar more in the future in terms of establishing, student chapters, maybe getting SEDs chapters to work with them and talk a little bit more about interstellar space, because it's hard for students to do interstellar space projects. It's hard for adults to do interstellar space projects. So it's really a question now of how do you move forward with a relationship like that? How do students participate in interstellar space? And that's something that I'm kind of asking all of you guys and would love to hear from you guys at the kind of open-ended section. Apparently the chapters do theoretical design reports and build experimental electric propulsion engines and a bunch of other cool stuff that I'm sure they will tell you all about. But there are a lot of shortcomings when it comes to the involvement of the industry with students, and that is something that you guys can all help with. So shortcomings include participation of universities and mentors. Essentially, all of you guys are capable of providing really invaluable advice to students. How many of you guys have mentored a student before? Okay, so that's about half of you. So the other half of you should go try and find, a local school and see what students need mentorship, because it's really something that we're lacking. Diversity, and I'm not talking about gender diversity or racial diversity, I'm talking about diversity of majors, diversity of interests. Even though there is such a wide, 20% is a good number for non-STEM students in SEDs, there's still, we're still lacking in seeing people who, aren't in STEM majors who may love space, but they don't know that they can participate. And it would be really wonderful for law firms who have a focus in space policy to reach out for students. I don't know if there's anyone involved with policy here. I know there are a lot of people involved in art here, and students would really love to hear from you guys. That's a problem that you guys can all solve together. And the interstellar movement, like I was mentioning before, there are shortcomings when it comes to how students can get involved with interstellar space. All of them are interested in it, so how do we take that next step? How can we make student projects that are focused on that? Ooh. Okay, so what you can do. Mentor, internships, research, personal connections. I'm not kidding. See what the most local school is to you and give them a call. A lot of times students don't know to ask for help or who to ask for help. If you call your local school, be it a high school, first robotics team that needs mentorship, be it a local SEDs chapter, you won't regret it. Chances are they'll want you to come talk to them. You all have invaluable life experience that these students are really yearning for, but they don't know how to ask for it and they don't know who to ask. Reach out, and you can also donate, of course. We always need money for running competitions, and students need grants and scholarships. SEDS got a huge donation this year from Jeff Bezos, which will keep us going for many years in terms of having a solid foundation to build on. But there's all these other expenses. Giving scholarships to students is expensive, but once you guys have the means, it truly is the world to students to be able to do the projects that they want and get the education that they want. And you guys all have the power to do that, be that through mentorship or direct giving. These students really need you, and I think that's something that is very easy to forget. Time is now, students are our future. These are the takeaways. Essentially that this mission depends on you guys, and every single person in this room has the power to make a difference in a student's or many students' lives. Thank you. Yes. Or
forgive me, but maybe you already mentioned this, but do the letters SDDS, are they an acronym for some words?
Yes, Students of the Exploration and Development of Space.
Say it slowly.
Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. Sorry, I try to say it really fast because I worried people's eyes will glaze over as you get halfway through it.
When I majored in astronomy a long time ago, there were very few women in the class, and it's great to see that this is changing. We all have, these stereotypes that have been perpetuated about why women aren't in those subjects, and now it's changing. So I'm just wondering, what inspired you to go into astrophysics? And that's the question.
Astrophysics specifically, or STEM in general?
Yeah, sure.
Which one? They're two very different answers. Okay, why I decided to go into STEM. I've always been interested in science since I was a very little kid, and no one ever stopped me, so that's how I ended up there. I had two great role models, my parents. My dad was a huge role model to me. He studied neuroscience, and he would always answer all my questions. My mom studied economics, so I never had any doubt that women could do math. She helped me with my math. When I moved from California to Connecticut, I was about 2 years behind in the math system because the system here in California was really different. And she taught me 4 years of math in 1 summer so that I could go into the 2-year advanced course. And then I was able to take, ridiculously advanced courses as I kept moving up through my schooling, and it was all because she was able to teach me. So I never grew up under the assumption that, women were worse at math or science. And there were moments of discrimination, but it was never anything that was enough to, stop me from doing what I wanted. I remember the most stark time was when I was getting ready to move into one of the calculus classes. My high school, you go from pre-calculus to calculus, and you get recommended for either calculus AB, AP calculus AB, or AP calculus BC. There's regular calculus, but if you're an honors pre-calc, you go into either one of those two. And I said, I want to do AP Calc BC. I have an A in this course. It's been no problem for me. I love math. My teacher said, I'm going to recommend you for calculus AB. And I said, why? He said, because you're a professional actor, and you are on the debate team, and you do so many extracurriculars, I don't think you can handle it. I think it will be too stressful for you. My classmates, who were ranging in grades from B- to A, male students were all recommended for BC. And that was the first time in my life that I ever experienced something where I realized, hey, if I were male, my teacher would not be saying something like he was concerned that it would be too stressful for me. But other than that, I've received pretty much nothing but support from my teachers. I had a great 8th grade science teacher who was a woman who's now, she's a grandmother and she's a marathon runner. She does triathlons, so she's pretty great. Lots of strong women.
Astrophysics.
Yes.
You were going to tell us about
Astrophysics. So I actually started off doing electrical engineering, which I really loved, but Yale's program is fairly small for electrical engineering. It's a good program, but it was too small for me. And my whole life, everyone had said, hey, you're majoring in astrophysics, right? And I'd have to correct them and be like, no, electrical engineering, because they knew I was interested in space, so they just assumed astrophysics. I was interested in space and good at math. And eventually I was like, you know what? All right, fine. I'll do astrophysics, and I love it. So that's how that happened. Very little to do with being a woman.
Do you have a long-term vision for SEDs? You know, what would you like to do? Soon you're going to be your vice chair now, possibly chair soon enough. I'm sure that you have an idea of where you want SEDs to go.
There has to be an election before she's chair.
There has to be an election.
Yeah.
What?
So that's actually something we're going to be talking about next week. Mike and a couple of the leaders from the chapters will be talking next week. So if you guys have any input on that, I will take that to all the SEDS leaders next week. But essentially, you know, what I was talking about, what's the future of SEDS? To me, SEDS has always been about bringing together students who love space. You know, SEDS got started because, you know, basically an ad got put out in this magazine at the time. I don't remember the name of the magazine, but they weren't expecting any responses. Overwhelming student response, interest in space. Yes, let's have an organization for students who are interested in the exploration and development of space. And to me, SED still is that. SED still is, if only we could just talk to each other, we would see how widespread this interest is. So I'm hoping that SEDS can be the organization that creates those opportunities for students.
Incidentally, the founders of SED are Peter Diamandis and Bob Richards, who's doing MoonX, and Robert Hawley. So it's worth noting that they continued on and have become named space figures, as have many people. Jeff Faust was a SEDS member. I'd also like to point out that I was not a SEDS member as a youth, and there was no SEDS, and so I actually have signed. I'm in college now, and I joined SEDS after speaking at SEDS about Icarus Interstellar several years ago. So there you go. I'm a college student. How about that? Question?
Also, if any of you guys have more stuff to say or input, please feel free to come up to me at any point.
You mentioned Jeff Bezos contributed to SEDS. Can you talk us through that process, how that happened?
Well, I wasn't actually there. This was last year. I'm sure Mike can do more, but for background on Jeff Bezos, he was the second president of the first SEDS chapter at Princeton University. So, Mike, can you speak a little bit more to how that donation happened?
Yeah, so then what happened was that I'm pretty sure that Rick
He won the prize, the Heinlein
Yeah, he won the Heinlein
yeah.
Prize. It was $250,000. And then, I think it was Peter Diamandis. Yeah, Peter Diamandis hit him up and said, listen, you don't need that money. Give it to SEDS. And he did. He gave it to us at the last
Because of that,
space.
it took him an extra week to become the richest person in the world.
Whee! So that happened, yeah.
Anyways, we're incredibly grateful that money is going to ensure that we stay around for a long time. And that's really what I wanted to get across to you guys, is that this is a permanent organization. There is permanent student interest in space. So we're not going anywhere, and we need your help.
A question? Yes. Kid Matt.
What do you think about the Mars generation as a competing organization or complementary?
I don't really know anything about the Mars generation. I know it started by astronaut Abby, I think she goes by, but I haven't had any communication with them. I would love to work with them. I think that, you know, SEDS has a lot of reach in terms of number of student members, and I don't really know what membership for the Mars generation is like, but it would be really nice to work with an organization that's a little bit more Mars focused. So if you know astronaut Abby, I would love to get in touch, is my response to that.
What is your research interest?
My research interest in astrophysics, I don't have a specific area yet. I'm still in my second year, so can't answer that.
The last president of SEDS is, that was, who was the last president of SEDS?
Hannah Kerner.
Hannah Kern is now the president of Space Science Space Frontier Foundation. I think she just changed to the European.
She left, yeah.
Yeah, so like SEDS has this amazing background. Approximately 50% of the people have gone through SEDS. Thousands of people work in aerospace now. So, and we
have at least one other SEDS member in the audience, sitting all the way back there.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. All right. Any other questions? Olivia, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me.